And here we go. I guess we're now live.
All right, here we go.
All right. Welcome to a new episode of Redemption HQ. This is Redemption Reviews. We're going to be talking about The Crow. And I am Brobarian, and I'm joined here with Rob. It's just going to be the two of us today. Everyone else has passed away, RIP to our friends. But don't worry, since they'll all come back with vengeance and be here for the next episode.
Oh, that nice Crow reference. Nice Crow reference. Yeah, but that's in all due seriousness. Big shout out to our pals who aren't able to join us today due to scheduling conflicts. Adulting, right?
Yes, everybody's busy being adults, sadly. But so how did you like that Mike Tyson fight? Did you get to catch it?
I was actually unable to catch that.
Yeah, same. I watched other people talk about it as it was happening. What a disappointment that Tyson got beat.
It is always hard when legends take a tumble. It's always hard. You build them up as these big, massive, almost demigod status, especially with sports heroes and such. But I mean, everybody has an off day, and there's always going to be someone that moves a little faster, punches a little faster and harder. That's especially when you talk about a martial art.
Yeah, and you got what, like a 30-year age gap somewhere on there, 20 to 30 years age gap.
Yeah, that could not have helped him much. Ugh,
Nah.
that definitely was not in his favor, the age gap. But all right. So we've got some Corvids to discuss today.
Yes, we do. So, and we can start this off. Speaking of R.I.P. Tony Todd, who was what was his name? Lenses or Glasses? I'm trying to think. I want to say it was Glass. He played the character Glasses.
Glasses, yeah.
Glasses in The Crow.
And
Sorry,
may he rest in peace. That I was so shocked to hear about his sudden passing. That was really sad times.
Yeah, 69 years old. I mean, that's a pretty good age.
It's a respectable age, but these days we're so used to hearing about people going on into their 80s that.
Yeah.
And he aged really well throughout his later career and later film appearances and such.
Agreed. Yeah, he was on. There's, I think one of the last movies he did is on Tubi right now. It's like a horror movie. That looks pretty good. I've got it on my queue. I just have yet to find time to watch it. I can't watch any good movies with my kid around.
Fair point. Was it the last Candyman film?
No, it was
because he was really famous for his portrayal of that character in horror films.
I'm trying. Let me look it up real quick. It's on. It is on Tubi.
Or not Tubi.
So, yeah, I love Tubi though. It's the best. Let's see. I know. I'll find it here real quick. IMDb. Show me your movies. Was it the Lockdown Hauntings? Was that what it was? It might have been what it was. The Lockdown Hauntings. I want to say that's the one that's on Tubi.
Okay. I'll have to look that one up. I am not familiar with it.
Oh, there's one. Realm of Shadows is the most recent film. Now it's 2024.
Whoa. All right.
And a horror anthology. Awesome. Yeah. Such a good actor. You know. And the funny thing is he was in the 1990s. Night of the Living Dead remake.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just watched it the Sunday before he passed away. Because I like that one. I watched it on, was it on TNT with Joe Bob Briggs? He played it, and man, I remember it freaking me out when I was little, and I enjoyed it. But I enjoyed it, but it gave me nightmares for days. And
yeah, that'll do it.
Yeah, But yeah, so I was like, man, I'm gonna go ahead and sit down and watch that while my family was asleep. And yeah, man, I loved it. And then just a few days later, he ended up passing away. So it's timing sometimes,
Wow.
It's all
Oh,
about
and
timing.
it was tickling my brain, so I did a quick double check.
Hmm.
Tony Todd's character in the '94 Crow film was he wore glasses, but his character's name was Grange.
Grange. Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
but I always called the character Glasses in my head because he had I remember him wearing the cool specs. But
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for looking that up. Yeah, that might have been like one of his character's nicknames or something.
I'm sure it was Top Dollar and the gang all had some very interesting interesting names to their characters and all sorts of pleasant and unable to be said in public on live radio names that they would use for their characters too.
I'm sure. uh, but The Crow. I mean, this is what a great. I mean, I love this movie. So if anybody, if for the listeners out there, if you did check out episode 0, where we all got to sit down and meet each other and discuss what we liked about Everyday Heroes, what got us into it, and all that. I was the standalone complex that said that The Crow is my favorite cinematic adventure. That I've loved The Crow since I was younger. I know it's weird. It's like, oh, how come you don't know the character's name? Blah blah blah. Well, I mean, like I'm pushing 40 years old here pretty soon. I can't remember everything. Sometimes you gotta snap your fingers and go through 6 different cat names before you land on the cat that's pissing you off. So and then I'm sure I mean, like, once you're old enough, you get to the point where you work with like 12, 15, 30 different people at a job. You're like, I'm not going to remember everybody's name, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? You get to that kind of a point.
I hear you.
Um, but yeah, with the Crow movie I loved, and the comic in particular, that was a huge um emotional keystone in my youth, and I loved it. Um, so of course this review is going to be color biased by that, but I've listened to several movie reviews on it, particularly one on Spotify where all they do is shit on movies, and so I listened to what they had to say about
Mhm.
it, and there are some points taken, some points that it's just like, all right, now you're just being nitpicky at this point, those kind
Mhm.
of things. But what was your experience with The Crow at any point in life?
Now I remember watching the original one when I was very young. I don't remember the exact age I was at, but I
Mhm.
I remember the expression on the pawn shop guy's face when Eric Draven scares the living daylights out of him, pours gasoline over the place, and sets off a shotgun.
Oh yeah.
That was sort of an iconic moment in my brain.
Jesus
um,
Christ in a taxi cab.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly.
I was like, what is
And
that?
and that end, uh, I I've watched the original Crow film. I watched the 3 sequel films, and I watched. I don't know if anybody remembers this one, but there was a television show that effectively the pilot episode was a retelling of the movie with Brandon Lee, and then the rest of the TV show said, "Well, what if the film went in a different direction? What if he didn't get to rest again after avenging his own and Shelley's death?" And
Yeah.
that way you had this ongoing thing where he's trying to figure out what his destiny, his purpose is with the assistance of his crow spirit guide and such. And
Yeah.
I watched that TV show when it was still on television coming out of Canada, and I loved it. My favorites of those original settings had always been the ones starring the character of Eric Draven. Like I love the original film. I I enjoyed Crow the Crow City of Angels and the Crow Salvation.
Mhm.
And I didn't like The Crow, Wicked Prayer as much as the other three, but I still found it. I found it entertaining. Plus, it's got David Boreanaz in it, and he's a great actor.
Oh, definitely.
I crazy work schedules and a little bit of money tightness, I was not able to actually get to the theater to watch the new Crow movie. But like you, I watched a couple, quite a number actually, of reviews. A number of them were very, very negative, but I found a couple that pointed out the things they really enjoyed and liked about it. That the consistent thing that I heard that was very good about the more recent Crow film was the massive opera house combat sequence near the end of the film.
Yeah, that was really
I heard
fun.
that. Yeah, I heard that was just a masterpiece of blood and gore, was what one reviewer called it.
Yeah,
And
it was cool. It was cool. Yeah, so I'm not the one who made this point, but I agree with this point, and it's the 90s one and the most recent one. I don't look at the new one even as a remake per se. I think that's more of a misnomer. But the differences between the two is that the old one really focuses and gets the vengeance side of the story and the hunting down and getting the revenge. But the newer one nails the romance and the emotional side, the emotional keynotes that permeate through the comic book, and it does a better job at that. Because like the old 90s one, it's mostly just flashbacks, and that's all Shelley, or yeah, that's all Shelley really is in the movie. She's just a flashback. She doesn't have much of a character, but in the comic book, Shelley's a prominent character. Like, yes, it's she's already dead through the whole book, but we get to see more of her, and we get to see her talking, we see her thoughts and their relationship. Even in most of the issues, it's yes, it's in him and Revelry, but it's like long format conversations between her and Eric. And we get to see that development, and that's the one thing about the new Crow movie, that she's a fully fleshed and realized character, and I like that about that movie. So the hatred, I'm telling, a lot of the hatred that this movie got is, it's either, I feel that a lot of it is from like a misplaced frustration of like, oh, it's a reboot, that kind of stuff, and quit messing with my childhood, and that kind of mentality. But it didn't do that for me. Now the whole like drug culture stuff, and it has a particular name, and I forgot to look it up last time I was talking about this movie. I forgot the name of it. It's a very specific subculture thing. Of course that's not interesting. That doesn't interest me. I'm not into that kind of stuff. I'm not into smoking weed and popping pills. But still, it's these two characters that they bond over. Despite my apprehension towards drugs, they still bond over this thing, and their traumas, and through that they find peace and love and a kinship, and so it's it's a better development story, I should say, especially considering like the third and fourth film, where a lot of that stuff isn't quite there.
Yeah, you don't really see in the second film, there was the drug culture was the big part of the big villains and such, much like in the first film.
Yeah.
In Crow Salvation, and we can go each of these one by one if we like later on. But in the third film, Crow Salvation, that one is set in the middle of Utah. The issue there is more corrupt politicians and cover-ups, and crooked cops. That's the bad guy trend and theme in that particular film.
Yeah.
And Wicked Prayer, the fourth one, was the movie where it was the most out and out supernatural evil bad guy of the original four films. Although from what I've heard about this most recent film, the villain in there, the main bad guy, uh, because it's not a strict reboot, like you said. They take the name Eric Draven, they take the name Shelley, but everything else about the new film is radically different in terms of how exactly the death occurs, why they are targeted for the death is radically different in this one,
Yeah.
and like in the first Crow film, the main mastermind villain of Top Dollar, he is not a supernatural person or supernaturally powered. He's aware of the supernatural. He's got
His sister.
his sister. Yeah, the character's
His,
name was Myra. It was hold on. I got the cat. I've got the here we go. Micah.
Micah.
Played by Ling, and she was out and out supernatural. She was I think one of the inspirations of that soothsayer smart hero class.
Mhm.
But overall, the protagonist was supernatural, not the antagonists, and that I think is what made the reactions of the antagonist, the fear and the horror movie element of hunting down those that wronged him, very visceral and very relatable. Because if someone all of a sudden starts popping up out of the shadows after me, I'm going, holy crud. But when you get to, say, Wicked Prayer, the fourth film, or this most recent reboot, the villains are supernatural. So it becomes almost an even playing field situation. To some respect. But yeah, it makes it a very different story. I think that perhaps a lot of the negative viewpoints towards the new film are because there was the insistence of using the name and repurposing the character of Eric and Shelley instead of making
Yeah.
up a new character name or going through the Crow comic and choosing another one of the large number of other revenants brought back by the Crow in those comics. Because Eric Draven was just the first of the resurrected Crow revenants in the comic books by James O'Barr.
Yep.
Because yeah, and there were even a few that went all the way back into different time periods. One that was not a steampunk, but a cyberpunk futuristic Crow thing. There was even a Batman crossover, if I recall correctly. But I don't know how much James O'Barr was involved in that one, but there was if I recall correctly, a crossover edition, something that DC did in conjunction with the publisher. But yeah, I think that if they had gone with a different vessel for the Crow besides Eric Draven, I mean literally anyone besides Eric Draven and Ash Corvin, who was the focus of the second film,
Yeah.
I think that they would have gotten a better response. Because I mean that's the thing in the mythos, in the mythology of both the comics and the films. The Crow, the supernatural entity that brings these folks back so they can have their shot at vengeance/justice, that catharsis, that's the real focus of the films.
Mhm.
Each film is a completely unconnected, unrelated murder mystery, really, where the guy's trying to solve his own death, find
Yeah.
out who and why. Because I mean, the how is they're usually pretty good on the how.
Yeah, pretty good on that one.
But the who and the why are often a big mystery. Like the only one of the Crow films that was ever actually connected to previous ones directly was that second one, The Crow City of Angels, because the little
Sarah
girl
was
from
an
the first film,
adult.
Sarah,
Yeah.
right? She's an adult. She's a tattoo artist. She's seeing visions. She's also the smart hero soothsayer model in this one. But yeah, so I think if they had tried to make a cleaner break from the previous films and gone with a different character
Mhm.
to be the title Crow, I think things would have been a lot easier for them marketing wise, a lot easier for them in terms of dealing with pushback from the fan base that has a legitimate and well-deserved love of the original film that stars the character of Eric Draven.
Sure. Even
But
the cast of the old one pushed
oh,
back on
absolutely.
it.
Yeah, there was a
Yeah.
pushback. There was
Yeah.
definitely pushback.
Yeah, I mean the actress who played Sarah, she pushed back on it. Ernie Hudson, I did, and so did the director.
Yes, the director
So
of the original was very vocal about the dislike for the new one.
yeah,
And as far as the young lady who played Sarah, I believe good golly, Ms. Molly, what was her name? That was, here we go. Rochelle Davis.
Yeah.
Like Rochelle Davis and Ernie Hudson. I mean, they got to know Brandon Lee during the course of the filming, and by all report, he was just a genuinely nice guy and just a really fun guy to work with. At least that's the impression I got from the interviews I saw from Ms. Davis and Mr. Hudson about their experiences on the set there. I mean, I cannot even begin to imagine the emotional impact on the cast and crew when the tragedy occurred in the original film's filming. So I can totally understand why there would be a lot of pushback for those wanting to preserve Brandon Lee's legacy with his final role. It's almost the equivalent of saying, hey, let's retire the jersey number of this character. We can make more Crow films or a franchise, but let's keep it going on something else. Now that said, I mean, Eric Draven, the character, was used for that Crow TV show, but that TV show was not, I think, not nearly as widespread or wide known as a feature length film. I enjoyed it immensely, but it was a very faithful recreation of the original movie, with the exception of one major point, which we can get to a little bit later. But yeah. I think the reason why that TV show didn't have the pushback was because of how faithful they tried to make the look, the mythology, even some of the scenes in the pilot episode were homages to that film. And then after the pilot, it went its own direction and started making changes or additions to the mythology and such. But this one, like you said, a lot of people have expressed an appreciation for having a lot more of the pre-death storyline made available at the start of the film. Some folks have complained that when you go to see The Crow, you expect to see a bit more of the action, adventure, mystery, and argue that maybe that there was a lot of telling and showing rather than doing some of the more inventive or creative cinematic ways of conveying character or backstory. Yeah. But I mean, at a certain point, it's going to be about the preferences of individuals in the audiences. Some folks really like a slower build. Some folks like diving right into it.
Sure. I got into an argument with one person because they were like, in the new movie in particular, they're like, oh, Eric, he's pathetic. He doesn't know how to fight. They should have made him a soldier. They should have made him a fighter. And it's like, Eric Draven has never been that.
Ever. No, he was a guitarist. He was a musician in the comics, in the original film, even in the TV show. Yeah. That character was an artist. He had a penchant for kind of goth makeup and such, and the rocker scene of the 90s. Sure. But he himself was never as a character, was never a soldier. The Crow gave him like frenzied strength and supernatural resilience, and his rage made up for a lack of skill. But even if you look at the Brandon Lee movie, Brandon Lee in his own right was a fantastic, not just an actor, but a fantastic martial artist in the films I remember watching of his. But the way you see his character, Brandon Lee, move, he's got a natural litheness and agility. Yeah. And he does do some cool martial arts sequences, but it's never that, oh, this guy was a martial artist, this guy was a soldier. No, this guy realizes that he can do things because he can't die anymore. And pain is very temporary for him, except in certain circumstances. So he'll try things and do things and that other people would be terrified to do or think impossible, because he doesn't have to worry about things like, oh, ligaments.
Right.
Joints.
Exactly. He just sits there and absorbs bullets.
And Brandon Lee was able to weave his actual training into that very organic looking rage combat of the first film very well, I thought, without making it look like the guy was literally all of a sudden a trained martial artist, as people inexplicably become sometimes in action films.
Right. And the other thing too, the biggest thing is that it's, oh, these characters, all they do is mope around. Well, it's like, well, yes, that's the point of the character, is that they
brooding
died.
is a big part of someone who's a revenant. Yeah,
they died, and because they're so sad and angry, it's what brings them back to life.
Right.
So it's
The the
it's a huge
the
part of the movie.
combination of the injustice and the pain and rage that they feel at the at expressly at not just the loss of their own life, but the loss of a loved one, because
Hmm.
that is a common theme in the Crow works by James O'Barr. I mean, the guy, bless him, the guy created this almost as a way of dealing with the loss, the tragic loss of his fiance to a drunk driver.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons why there was that iconic moment in the original film where Darla, the mother of Sarah, it gets effectively
Sobered.
purged of the drugs of her supernaturally.
Yeah.
I mean, from what I mean, that I think was a very big homage to O'Barr, who didn't like who I mean, he lost someone to someone that was driving under the influence.
Yeah.
He was not at all a fan of the drinking and drug situation when it came to those works. I mean, you would see them in the works, usually in the realm of the villain,
Yeah.
as a major part of the causes of tragedies. So it's yeah, it was a very potent scene there, and that is something that you can see again and again in the various other films. These are stories about people who are enraged at and in pain at the loss of someone they love, often because of the addiction of others and greed of others and apathy of others.
Yeah.
Sorry, that went off on a tirade there.
No, you're right. No, precisely. Yeah, and it's just, I mean, it's all about this, and the ills of society.
Mhm.
So going over the cast, we can go ahead and mention this here. So we got Brandon Lee as our title character, Eric Draven, Michael Wincott as Top Dollar, Ernie Hudson
Mhm.
as Sergeant Albrecht. We got
Oh
Bai
yeah.
Ling as Micah. We got Sophia Shanas as Shelley Webster, Anna Thompson as Darla, David Patrick Kelly as T-Bird, Angel David as Skank. We've got Lawrence Mason as Tintin, Michael Massey as Funboy, Tony Todd as Grange, John Polito as Gideon, Bill Raymond as Mickey. We've got Jeff Chiarenti as Waldo. And as we had mentioned before, Rochelle Davis as Sarah. Those are the main cast. They've got a bunch of other actors who, side stuff, paramedics, extra additional voices, and all that. So,
Mhm.
but yeah, who was it? Was it Michael Massey, Funboy? I believe that was the one who he was the one that retired from acting for many
Yeah.
years
Mhm.
after that on-set incident
Mhm.
with
Yeah, he
Brandon.
did one or two small things. Like he was in a horror anthology a year or two after The Crow, but I believe he was the one that kind of stepped out for a while. I
Yeah,
mean, he came back after a couple of years, but I mean, yeah, that would be enough to make anybody say, "Hey, I
yeah,
need to take stock here."
that's just tragic.
Truly.
So, but yeah, was it David Patrick Kelly? Big, big time known for his role on The Warriors.
Hmm.
So, which I like that movie. I don't know about you. I like The Warriors. That was a good movie. Um,
It was
that would be a great cinematic adventure to add into the mix if they decide to do a season 2 of films. That'd be a good one.
that would be. I know that we did in our Halloween horror recommendations.
Mhm.
There are so many films and franchises that would be fantastic to pair with everyday heroes.
Mhm. Absolutely. And then again, Bai Ling and Sophia Shanas, two beautiful women. Um, if anyone's interested, Sophia Shanas was in an episode of what was that show? Outer Limits. Yes, Outer Limits. Do not watch that with little kids
Naturally,
around.
naturally so.
Um, that it's the one episode where it's adult situations, but it's a good episode. I
Fair,
think
fair.
I think I've worn out the tape on whatever streaming service that it's on. But yeah, and Bai Ling, of course, she's done some modeling and such. Great, she's a good actress. And Wincott, who played Top Dollar, man, he was just like
He was everywhere.
the '90s villain.
Yeah,
Like,
he was in the Disney's Three Musketeers with Chris O'Donnell and Kiefer Sutherland. He was the Rochefort, the guy with the eye patch, and he was in the Man of the Iron Mask, if I recall correctly, as the warden of the Chateau d'If prison.
yeah, he's like that guy. He's just the perfect
What a voice!
actor.
What a voice! Oh my gosh!
I know. Yeah, like 12 packs of cigarettes rolling down a mountainside.
and he came up.
Yeah, it's great. And then of course Brandon Lee, had a very short career. He had some good movies though.
Oh
For
yeah,
sure.
yeah, and he was a rising star. I mean, the guy, if I recall correctly, he was actually in talks to do another major film after The Crow wrapped.
Mhm.
It says the guy's star was on the ascendant,
Yeah.
and then tragedy. It was shocking. Yeah.
Yeah, I think had he not have passed away, I think his rising star would have, man, it definitely would have surpassed his father's for sure. I think
He
he would
had
have
a
made so
he had
many
a
roles.
charisma about him. He was charming. Everybody liked him.
Hmm.
I think the first movie I ever saw with him was Showdown in Little Tokyo with Dolph Lundgren,
Hmm.
and that was an early '90s martial arts action flick that I thought was very well done. Enjoyed it immensely.
Yeah.
Um, but he was also in another one I think was called like Laser Mission, I think. Uh,
Mhm.
that one doesn't stick quite as well in my memory as Showdown in Little Tokyo, but yeah, he only had a handful of films to his name before The Crow.
Mhm.
But I mean, yeah, he was getting recognition.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was a story that his sister had told during an interview about I'm trying to remember. It was some vandals or something like that, or thieves.
Ooh,
And he chased them down and beat them up and apprehended them
I believe it.
in real life. And it was like, and his sister like scolded him over it. She's like, you can't be doing that. Like, you're not a cop. And he's just like, hey, but it's the right thing to do. And so, so it really speaks to his character as a person.
Hmm.
That's why people love him.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, I think he left such a great mark, especially in like the goth community, the rocker community, and especially among all the actors that he's ever worked with. They all speak fondly in remembrance of him. So it's out of a genuine place too, because there's sometimes there's some actors that when they die they're like, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Oh yeah, you know they'll tell you some kind of a story, but it doesn't mean quite as much because they maybe didn't really like him too much. But yeah, with him, it's every actor that talks about him, you can tell just through body language and facial expressions that he did genuinely mean something to them. And I've met other actors who've had those experiences. Like I met Jason Font after JDF's passing, and just watching him talk about Jason and their friendship that they had. It's you can tell that it definitely weighed. It still weighs on him even today,
Hmm.
looking back at their time together and all their conversations. So yeah, it's one of those real genuine things that you can I don't know, as an outsider looking back or looking in, you can always deeply appreciate. But when it comes down to the movie, we got I got Sarah. I got Sarah's quote pulled up here. People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it, and the soul can't rest. Then sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
And that has got to be one of the big iconic intros to any film.
Mm-hmm.
Because like when we have our Highlander Day, there'll be a similar bit that I'll bring up about the first Highlander film, similar opening quote by a certain Sean Connery. But this one, I mean, it's in one brief quote. The basic premise of what's about to happen is outlined.
Mm-hmm.
An explanation for why what you're about to see occurs is given. It and it is a whole new and sometimes terrifying world that these characters emerge into when they come back.
And in terms of exposition, you see these movies like Star Wars and the exposition crawl, and it's just,
Mhm.
oh my god, it's like miles long, dude. This, Rochelle Davis delivers this small paragraph, and it tells you everything you need to know going into this situation. I and in such a poetic
Mhm.
kind of style, and especially through the voice of a child at the time, it conveys a bit of an innocence, um peering into the darkness, and it's a great composition and juxtaposition. I Again, this is one of those things where it's like, okay, maybe the movie isn't, it's not the perfect movie, um but there's so much to it that if you actually sit down and think and apply thoughts into it, there's a lot of layers into this film, it isn't just a simple action film. It's kind of sad that James O'Barr wasn't exactly fond of this movie, um for many many years, but I can understand that, his bitterness towards it really more stems towards Miramax and dealing with Hollywood jerk offs, and which of course we've seen what the people behind Miramax and what they're capable of and what they were
Mhm.
doing. My heart goes out to that FICA plant in that in that hotel room.
Oh
uh,
boy.
but yeah, but it's a good film. I mean, I really do think that City of Angels, the second one, I think it's about on par with the first. I know a lot of people maybe don't share that same opinion with me, but I think that they're both pretty equal in tone and action, and delivering the story that they want to tell effectively. But I love the first one still,
Now,
still to
the
this
first one
day.
has a special place in my heart, I have to say.
Yeah.
And well, it's when people think about this franchise, they do think about that first film almost instantly.
Mhm.
Um, it's and I know that sequels are always a hard thing to do, and I know that we both agree that what this new Crow film is, it's not a reboot, it's not even a remake. Really, it's so radically different in so many ways. It's just a new film that is borrowing a basic concept from a franchise. But yeah, the other Crow movies never quite got the same acclaim or love as the original did. Yep. It's like, have you seen The Crow City of Angels, by the way, the second one?
Oh yeah, yeah, and I love it.
Oh yeah,
I really do. I do.
it was really good. Now they actually even had almost some pyrotechnic abilities added in for the Crow main character in this one there, because the guy does his magic tricks with the cards disappearing in a flash of flame, and he
Mhm.
walks through fire unscathed, which mean, yeah, Eric Draven in the first one blows up the pawn shop and is unharmed, but you don't literally see him walking through fire like you do the character of Ash Corvin.
Right.
It's pretty. It was a pretty impressive thing for the effects of the time, and yeah, that one also had, with the direct connection to Sarah as an adult in that movie, there was an interesting situation there where there was almost a bit of a romantic tension between Sarah and Ash Corvin in the second film.
I was about to bring that up. I was like, because that was an interesting thing, because it's like, can a dead man find new love in the face of his mission? And it's like, well, no.
Not really. Yeah, these guys are revenants. Their purpose is to seek vengeance, justice. The definition may alter from film to film, but yeah. Now, with that in mind, though, that character in the second Crow film, Ash Corvin, he's the only one of the Crow characters whose loved one was not a romantic loved one, but his child. So I would be hard pressed for a Crow franchise film to ever show a new love interest for, say, the Eric Draven character or the characters of the Crow from the other films, such as Alex Corvus in the third one, or Jimmy Cuervo. And yes, I hope the folks at home are listening to the last names of all these characters. They all mean Crow in one form or another.
Yeah, Crow or Raven, one of the two.
Right, exactly. Yeah. But in a way, though, because of what, I don't want to spoil too much of what happens in the second Crow movie, but in a way, while he doesn't get to live out a new second chance at life on Earth, he does reunite with everyone he loves at the end.
Yep.
So he can find love, I think. It just, he doesn't get to live life again, which can ultimately be more tragic or eerily beautiful, depending on how you want to take a look at that story and how you interpret the final scene of that film. But yeah, that was the only time where you actually see an ongoing possible love interest situation.
Yeah.
But even that was, you weren't sure if it was going to go anywhere. There was a lot. I mean, his big focus was on avenging his son. Oh yeah, and I think when you take a look at, for example, the cinematic adventure of the Crow, they do have both Eric Draven and Ash Corvin statted out, which does indicate that these two films, at least in particular, are deeply connected to each other. Because Sarah's the connecting voice.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, and they gave us child Sarah and adult Sarah.
Exactly, right.
Which is cool. Yeah,
that was really fun. It's a little sneak peek into what we had in the vault about the alternate rules. Hey, what if you want to do like a what was that movie with Will Wheaton where they look for the guy in the train track?
Oh,
it was based on a Stephen King novel.
Oh, I know. And it's got the
there's
like a song title.
Yes. Not Lean on Me, because that was the that was the film starring Morgan Freeman as a teacher. Star Trek fans are going to be very angry at me for mixing up Star Wars and Star Trek right there. But Star Trek fans are going to mock me for not remembering this Will Wheaton factoid. It was Stand By Me. Stand By Me. That's what it was. Not Lean on Me. Stand By Me. Okay. Yeah, so if you wanted to do an adventure in the vein of, say, Stand By Me, where it's kids going on an adventure, or if you wanted to do like the first half of the It novel from Stephen King and kids fighting off a supernatural entity, or heck, I mean, Stranger Things. The character of Sarah in the first Crow film gives you a little bit of a baseline for how to do something like that in an Everyday Heroes game. And I got to tell you, one of the most intense scenes for me in the original one was when Eric shows up at Ernie Hudson's apartment, gives him a hard time about wearing the hat at home, but the bit where you see his psychometry, his ability to relive memories and experiences by touching someone or something.
Yeah.
The reaction Brandon Lee gave to seeing how Detective Darrell had stayed with Shelley, the compassion that character had shown to a relative stranger, just that genuine humanity, that broke him out of the darkness that he had draped himself in as the avatar of the Crow. You see him literally sob and be a little bit of his old self again in a way that you don't see except for his few interactions with Sarah.
Like when he violently throws himself into the reclining chair because he's just completely overwhelmed.
Right. He's that I think is when you see him the most emotionally vulnerable in that film.
Yeah. I agree. Especially when they sit down and they're smoking cigarettes, and he's just, these things will kill you.
Says the dead man.
Freeze, or don't move, or you're a dead man. Well, I say I'm a dead man, and I move.
That was very cleverly written, I felt.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Good times. Good times.
Such a good one too. And what was it? You Motor City motherfuckers. I love that line too. That's a great one. I love that line.
Oh boy. I tell you. Yeah, that was really good. Now, this next bit might be a little bit of a hot take for fans of the original film or even the second one. I honestly enjoyed the third film, The Crow's Salvation, in part because it was, in terms of theme, same theme as the first film. A fella is killed, the woman he loves is killed, and he comes back to avenge. But the type of story was a lot more almost political intrigue-esque because of the corruption in local government and local law enforcement that resulted in the killings, and because he was actually wrongfully accused and executed for a crime he didn't commit, the death of his girlfriend. So that added, I thought, a little extra spice to the mix there. It like Eric and Ash, they were victims of the crime along with their loved ones. This person, Alex Corvus, he has to spend the better part of a year through the murder trial and the investigation being publicly blamed and hated for the death of someone he loved when he had no role in it. And his character is very bitter on that score.
The man with the scar.
Yeah, the man with the scar. And that had a little taste of the old fugitive Ford film for me, like the man with the wooden arm sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I thought that the detective work he does in terms of breaking into the police headquarters, finding evidence, getting flashbacks, and using the flashbacks to solve the crime, I thought that was a rather clever way to go about using his supernatural powers to do this. Because, with Eric and Ash, they both actually saw their killers' faces. They might not have known the names and had to use their powers or intimidation to track down information about the people, but they were witnesses to their own deaths. Whereas this guy had no idea beyond that one scar who was responsible. He had to go digging, and he had to try and win the trust of his deceased girlfriend's sister, who still thought he was guilty, in order to find. I thought that added some interesting elements to a Crow story.
Definitely. And the third one has a lot of pretty big names, surprisingly, for like the low budget, low release.
And it was very low budget, low release, especially for the time. I mean,
Yeah.
it had a Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. I mean, she
Walt.
was a very big name at the time, and she's still very well known for a wide range of things. She was on the Nash Bridges show
Yeah.
back in the late '90s. She was in Prison Break, and she was in
Hmm.
that. She was in a massive rom-com movie with James Franco.
Yeah. And then the relatively unknown name of
Mm-hmm.
Fred Ward.
Oh yeah.
I mean, no one ever heard of that guy apparently. Along with this, they got this one actress, Kirsten Dunst. She's never been in anything bigger than The Crow Salvation, obviously.
Well, sarcasm. Oh yeah. No, she went on to have quite the career after this show, because this was one of her really early films when she was just getting out of the child star phase.
Yeah, this was
Yeah.
just ahead of Spider-Man.
Right. Yeah,
Just
because
ahead, 'cause
Spider-Man, that was back in like 2002.
2001. 2001.
Okay, 2001. I was off a year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Salvation had to have been probably was filmed in the late 1999, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
because it was released in 2000, so they had to have done the filming in 99.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, she had yet to do Spider-Man by
Mhm.
this point. Yeah, Jodie Lynn O'Keefe. Yep, you're right. And Walter Goggins too, who's he's
Walter Goggins.
just gaining tons of fame now because
Oh yeah.
of Yellowstone?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, because of Yellowstone.
I do believe that is the one.
Yeah, I mean he's been he's done a bunch of other
Yeah,
stuff
he
along the
was
way.
he was an awesome villain in the TV show Justified.
Yes.
He was so good in Justified. Yeah, and he was on The Shield. The guy went on to have a pretty big career. But yeah, when you take a look at the early works of a lot of well-known actors today, you'd be surprised what you find. I mean, how many times have we discussed Eric Roberts? I feel that I needed to make sure he got brought up here. I mean, that man's been in so many films. And if you look far enough back in the filmography, you think, wait, was him? We have to have an Eric Roberts reference in every episode. It's obligatory now.
Exactly. I just wish he was. I wish he was in this one. Oh yeah, William Atherton too. William Atherton was in that one too. I forget. He played their dad, Randall.
Yes.
In Nathan
yes.
Randall.
Mm-hmm. And he's a very well-known actor. I mean, he's been a bit of everything, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the Die Hard movies. He was in the old Ghostbusters films. Because he was the mayor, if I recall correctly, or on the mayor's staff.
I want to say so.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds right. But yeah. So that one, as far as the Crow's powers go, they really, in the third film, doubled down on the regenerative abilities, the psychometry. Like Ash Corvin had a bit more nebulous powers because there was the regeneration, but there was also that that relationship he had with fire from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
But they kind of went back to formula and really doubled down on the stuff that was very present in the Brandon Lee film in that one. The Wicked Prayer, the fourth one that's got David Boreanaz in it, that one was, I think, the most off book, if you will.
Yeah.
Because
I don't blame people for not remembering Wicked Prayer at all. It's pretty forgettable. I mean, I think I've attempted to watch it at least 2 or 3 times, and I still genuinely cannot tell anybody a single thing about that movie. It does not stick.
Yeah. It was only in theaters for 1 week in Seattle.
Yeah.
And then it went direct to video after that. So it's an easy one to forget about, to lose track of in terms of just release and viewership of the time. But it also had quite a lot of what we would now consider big names. I mean,
oh yeah,
they had Machete's in it.
Tara Reid,
Danny Trejo's in it. Tara Reid's in it. David Boreanaz is in it. I mean, heck, Dennis Hopper's in it. They even had Emmanuel Tariq, if people are watching Lois and Clark right now, sorry, not Lois and Clark, the Superman show on the CW. She plays Lana Lang in that current Superman show, and she's been in a bunch of stuff. I mean, voice acting, fantastic actress, and she's the one she's the loved one of the Crow, Jimmy Cuervo, who is killed along with him. Yeah, it's a very odd movie compared to the others because it really doubles down on a lot of these supernatural elements. Like the villains are out and out
villains.
Like, yeah, they're occultic cultists that are literally killing people for power and displaying things like telekinesis, telepathy. I mean, the supernatural-esque individuals you saw aside from the Crow in previous films were largely just well-read. I still never quite a major gaping plot hole for me in The Crow Salvation was, okay, so the police captain happens to randomly know about the Crow as a concept,
right?
For no apparent reason whatsoever, just happens to know enough about the lore to know you shoot for the Crow instead of the person. But at least with Top Dollar, he had his sister character Micah that was that intensely, admittedly stoned, but still intensely mystical character that had supernatural knowledge or insights because of their visions. And in the second movie, there was a similar seer or seeress, I should say, character in the employ of the main bad guy, Judah Earl.
And even Judah Earl, he was kind of an occultist too. You know,
right.
He was into the
There was a reason
and...
for them to know all this. Whereas the police commissioner, I mean, in the third film, I mean, great actor, but the character was so mundane in terms of connections to the occult that it made no sense for him to know about that. And then in The Crow Wicked Prayer, they went the complete other extreme end where, well, these guys aren't just in the know. These guys are out and out killing people for power. It's like, whoa, what the heck's going on here? And yeah, and there was and again, these are fantastical films. You're not meant to go in there. The people are being brought back as vengeful undead things. You're supposed to go in there with a bit of willing suspension of disbelief. But even after just watching this on television, I saw this one on television when I was younger. When it was one of the movies making the rounds through a Halloween programming station, if I recall. But what struck me was this is supposed to be set in the U.S. and there's somehow an Aztec reservation in the United States. What? So it's like, what? I don't care how close you get to the Texas border. There is no such thing as an Aztec reservation in the United States. Most of the folks who identify as having been descended from the Nahuatl-speaking peoples that most history books call it the Aztec or the Mexica, to use a name for themselves in the Nahuatl language. That's in Mesoamerica. That's firmly in Mesoamerica.
Yeah.
We're talking the Mexico City environs around that area of South Central Mexico. But so I'm not sure why the writer insisted on this being an Aztec situation when they could have gone for any number of actually existing, Native American communities in the American Southwest. But I mean, Danny Trejo steals any scene that he's in any movie. So,
of course.
But so he made it was rather interesting seeing him as a priest. Because usually you think of Danny Trejo, you think of him as like the biker or the ex gang member, or occasionally the crime boss or the bounty hunter. And in this film, he was a priest who was descended from a line of medicine men and ended up using both elements of his identity to assist Jimmy in his efforts to avenge his beloved, who I believe was also the daughter of Trejo's character. Yeah, because so he wasn't actually a Catholic priest, but they called him Padre, and he was a minister, a preacher. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know there's some sects within Catholicism where the priests are allowed to marry and have kids.
If you if you are part of the apostolate of folks that have come over from, say, the Anglican community and come into communion with the Catholic Church, then there is a stipulation and allowance for people who had been ordained in the Anglican tradition to effectively become ordained in the Catholic community while retaining their marriage vows and married life and status. Yeah. And then so I said I was a theology minor back in the day. So random things. But yeah, that one was the most just outright supernatural, off the wall plot line from start to finish.
Right.
Wicked Prayer. So it was still an enjoyable watch. It was just very different in tone and feel from the other films, where the Crow is almost is an unknown incidental factor in the minds of the bad guys until they start going after him. But in this one, there was almost a concentrated effort to catch him after the initial sacrifice.
Yeah, and particularly trying to create one so they can, because right off the bat they knew that there was like, oh, there's power in the Crow, and it was capturing him and relieving him of those energies was like the core of it. Since I remember, because I kind of remember the end.
It's been a while, but yeah, that's what I remember too.
Yeah, because I remember it was like, what was it? Brobarian, his character gets like super speed at the end, and he's like zipping around, and
he gets really souped up on supernatural power from a crazy evil ritual. Yeah,
I kind of remember that part because I remember laughing. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? Yeah. Again, it's the one I'll have to try to rewatch it again for maybe the fourth time. Maybe it'll stick this time.
It was an enjoyable watch. It didn't draw my attention nearly as much as the first three Crow films, but it was an enjoyable watch, and it was a very different take on the Crow mythology. Now, from what I understand of the remake, or the more rather, sorry, we'll stop using those words. What I understand of the new Crow film is that once you get to the part in the film where the characters of Eric and Shelley do pass away, and Eric gets into that liminal space where he's brought back, there is a figure, a shrouded, mysterious figure that sends him back with the Crow.
Yep.
Correct?
Yep.
Now, there was a figure in the comics referred to as the Skull Cowboy that would sometimes act as a more verbal, direct guide to the Crow's vessels.
There's that, and the Crow itself would also just talk to him as well.
Right. And, like, whereas in the films, the Crows are very enigmatic. They tend to guide wordlessly or by some sort of emotional tugging on their vessel. But so I understand that in the new one that shrouded figure was meant to be sort of a nod of the head to that figure of the Skull Cowboy, who by the way did have a prominent recurring role in the TV show The Crow, Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah. Now, Stairway to Heaven, I remember I watched some of the episodes when it was around, but it was on at such a late time, and I was in school during that time, so I couldn't stay up.
Oh, I was one of those kids that would set the VCR to record something for me, because we're old enough to know what VCRs are.
Yeah, that's true. I could never get mine to work. That was my problem.
Yeah,
it had that ability. You just whether it would actually trigger, that was that was another matter. Or if you had family members who did not care that you had something planned and they changed the channel on you anyway, and you wound up with some court TV recording rather than what you were wanting.
Yeah, that was always a risk. Yeah, always a risk.
Kronos was his name in the new one. Played by Sammy. Oh, I'm gonna butcher this. Bouajila, Bouajila. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce it. Yeah, he was. an interesting character. I don't know if they. I don't think that he was. I don't think Kronos was properly casted. I'm not gonna lie.
Hmm.
Um, um,
Not the best part of the film.
you know, it's not. It's probably not his fault. Let's see. I don't know much about him. Let's see. He's
I'm
from
not familiar with the name.
Tunisia. He immigrated from Tunisia to France in 1956.
Oh wow.
His grandfather was a Berber and immigrated to Tunisia. He was born and grew up in I don't know French, so it was Echirolles, a suburb of Grenoble. So I can tell you right now, just listening to him talk, it was like English is maybe the fifth language he ever learned.
Which might be the case. I mean,
Yeah,
multilingualism is very common in Europe,
yeah, and
in
so
most of the world, actually.
yeah, only not over here. You know, where a lot of us struggle to be bilingual at that, and
And we're mostly high school bilingual. We learn it for the grade, and then we don't tend to use it as much as we probably should.
or you learn it to impress the girl that you know you overheard is taking that class, and so you know you go and you take. Maybe I don't know. I'm not speaking from experience.
Wouldn't dream of suggesting it. Wouldn't dream of suggesting it.
You know, I don't know nothing about that. No, I was focused on my grades in high
Mhm.
school and junior high. There's no way. I purposely took Spanish so I could sit behind a girl that I liked. No. Still can't speak a lick of Spanish though. But yeah, it was yeah, it just he fought through his lines in that movie. That's for
Mhm.
sure. You know, aesthetically though, he fit into it, and I did like the character Kronos because he was a mastiff out of the book.
Ah, so that
Kronos, yeah,
oh.
yeah, he was one of the mastiff. He walks around with his spirit animal in the purgatory realm as he's trying to guide Eric, and yeah, he's a mastiff. So I liked that, you know, which was why I was like, oh man, like if you are a fan of Everyday Hero and if you like that one, go watch that movie because there's technically two crow kind of characters in it, and Kronos is he's the a mastiff spirit or avatar. I like that. I thought that was really cool, and I wish that this crow movie would have done better because I would have liked to have seen um, something you know more expansive on that too, like getting a spider or a moth
And
avatar
for
down
those
there.
folks at home that might be wondering what the heck we're talking about, in the Crow cinematic adventure, uh, there is a wise hero class
Mm-hmm.
called the Reborn. Now, because this is so tightly bound to the lore and IP of the Crow, this is not a class you will find in the vault. There is a very similar one that we'll talk about when we talk about wise heroes,
Mm-hmm.
but in this Reborn class, in addition to getting the immortal undead body and of the Crow, you get a spirit bond. Now, in the Crow movies, the spirit guide or sponsor of the individual is always a crow, and it's always about setting wrong things right. So you could argue justice, vengeance, but in the CA, there's other options for you. There's the Mastiff, as you said, which is a great large dog, often a
Mm-hmm.
guard dog. There's, like you said, there's the spider, the snake, the owl, the
The,
moth,
mhm.
the cat, the butterfly, even, and each of these animal totems or spirit guides has a distinctly different flavor of mission
Right.
that they bring you back for, beyond just the setting wrong things right, justice, vengeance mentality of the crow spirit.
Such as like one of them is being betrayed by your loved one, um,
Mm.
which is that's one of the the vengeances. One of them is such as, what was it, being betrayed by a family member in some regard. One of them is from like mass tragedy.
Hmm.
Out of, was it out of, or one of them was killed out of greed, I believe was one of them.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, like the cats often witnesses someone being taken advantage of or stolen from,
mhm,
exploited. Then you've got the, let me flip the page here. The mastiff is, because they're usually the guardians of the dead, they tend to choose the souls of protectors that still have
mhm,
someone to protect back amongst the living. You got the moth, and these are the ones that tend to be drawn towards psychics that already see something coming, but they're afraid the future they saw is going to come to pass, and they feel the need to help prevent the worst of it. The owl is the most enigmatic. It tends to choose heroes and is the most likely to choose heroes that might have been dead for a while before they get brought back. And the snake is the one that is all about the betrayed, because the snake is about rage and really a more brutal vengeance than justice.
right.
Yeah. And the spider, what's it say about here? Chooses souls who remain trapped between worlds by fate.
Hmm.
Yeah. And actually, the snake one was I think might have been a direct reference to the TV show. Because in the TV show, they actually do bring up snakes as a spirit entity that can bring people back.
Hmm.
And they're meant to be the opposites of the crow. Because in the TV show, they smooth out some of the rough edges a little bit, and uh, like in the movie, Eric is
Hmm.
taking very brutal, bloody vengeance on the people that killed him and Shelley.
Yeah.
In the TV show, he beats the tar out of them, but he doesn't kill them because the constant phrase of setting wrong things right is being said to him by the spirit of Shelley and by the Skull Cowboy.
Hmm.
And the emphasis on the show was that sometimes setting wrong things right does not mean eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. It means unmasking the truth so that people can be legitimately punished without staining yourself with other people's blood, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But whereas the snake in the TV show, if somebody animated by the crow does kill wantonly or in gives in to rage, then a spirit serpent comes and eats their crow, and that serpent becomes their new.
Avatar.
They become an avatar of the serpent,
Yeah.
not of the crow. But same things with an undying nature, constant regeneration, and superhuman abilities. But it's and that the TV show actually acknowledged that multiple people could be brought back by crow spirits. There was a 2 episode arc where another
Mhm.
crow, another character from the comics that's brought back, is ends up getting mentored by Eric a little bit.
Nice. Yeah, I wish somebody would pick up Stairway to Heaven, one of these streaming services. I
Yeah,
don't think I've seen it on
I've been
there.
looking for it everywhere. Maybe it got art. Maybe it's archived somewhere on the Wayback Project or something. But it's I cannot find the blessed thing anywhere. I did find a DVD set of it on Amazon, but it's only Canadian DVDs, and I have no means of playing Canadian DVDs. So
Yeah, same.
it is it is it is functionally out of my reach, which is a shame. I enjoyed that show immensely, and one of the recurring themes is there, even though his wrong was set right, he couldn't go back. He couldn't rest until he had resolved a certain amount of wrongs in the world of the living, which was a huge deviation from the original 4 movies. Because in the 4 movies, I mean, in the first one, once he's avenged himself and Shelley, he literally crawls back into his grave and it's time for him to rest.
Yeah.
And Ash Corvin, as soon as he's finished, he fades away and goes into his rest.
Mhm.
In Salvation, same thing. When Alex Corvis, when he finishes up, he goes on after a very tearful goodbye to the girl who would have been his sister-in-law had things been differently. And even in Wicked Prayer, as soon as everything's done, Jimmy goes off into the afterlife with Lily. But in the TV show, he's got additional missions he's got to do beyond his personal one. He's got to help other people set their wrongs right, which I think would be a really great way of using the CA to say, okay, yeah, you've got your personal mission, but your bonded spirit is going to be probably okay with you helping other people in similar problems resolve their wrongs and such. Now, was that the case in the new film? Did, after everything was said and done, was it automatically given that Eric would return to the afterlife with Shelley?
So in the new one, it's actually his mission is a very more meta, and meta contextual, in that everything that happens is technically a spirit realm as is. So from what the story implies is that Eric and Shelley died from an OD, and Eric is battling hell itself to preserve her spirit.
Well, that's a very different. Wow.
Yeah, that's a totally different take. And so at the end of the film, the paramedics are there trying to revive the both of them from their
spoiler
OD.
alerts for those at home.
Yeah, so spoilers. But yeah, Eric doesn't live. Eric dies. But he saves Shelley's soul from damnation. And so she lives, and she goes on to making music, and she's, getting a second lease on life. And Eric is now embracing his role as a crow on the spiritual plane.
Oh, so so kind of like Kronos was a mastiff spirit. Mm-hmm. Eric becomes a crow spirit and might bring someone else back. That's Possibly. An interesting wrinkle. That's a wrinkle. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes it a very different story.
It does.
Wow. That is that meta nature is all, of the narrative there and what's going on. Wow. That is radically different, because the rest of the franchise has always been about literally bringing the main character back to the world of the living, where they are set apart because of their supernatural or unnatural nature, and then then nature rights itself once everything's done.
Right.
But this is very different.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Which is why, again, it's an interesting film. It really is. It's worth the watch. It really is. I enjoy it. I'm waiting for it to come out on Blu-ray so I can get a copy. I really don't want it digitally. I want to have it physically in my collection.
There's something nice about having a physical copy of something. It's just it's just really nice to put it on the shelf, see it as part of your collection. Just being able to pop it out of the case and pop it into the DVD player and watch it. There's something really nice about that. I mean, don't get me wrong. Online streaming is fantastic. I mean, certainly I've enjoyed my share of Hulu and Netflix viewing. Yeah. But there's just something about popping in a movie.
Yeah. Especially in the case of like The Crow, Stairway to Heaven. I wish there more physical copies were available of it, because
Truly.
It's not available anywhere for streaming. You can catch some episodes on YouTube, or if you want to yo-ho, you can always yo-ho it, but you take your risks at that point.
Always. And the risks are pretty risky. Yeah, they're pretty darn risky. I personally don't go make those risks. Can't afford
it. No. I mean, anybody who had a computer in the 2000s, LimeWire turned your computer into a zombie shortly. Yeah. Trying to get that copy of Metallica or something like that.
Oh yes, indeedy. Yeah.
Oh, did you ever? Speaking of that, I did you ever hear the story about a computer technician? He bought a computer and he turned off like all the firewalls and safeties, and he plugged the computer up into the internet, and
Hmm.
within 2 hours of it just being connected to the internet, the computer had already been completely zombified. Never
Holy
went to
mother.
a website or anything. It literally just he plugged it in and connected it, just plugged in a internet cable into the computer. Didn't go through any of the browsers, and it immediately got swarmed. Did you ever read that story
No,
or
no,
heard about it?
I'd never heard of that. Whoa.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was crazy. Yeah, within 2 hours, it had already been backdoored by backdoor access by like five different people. It had several Trojan viruses in it. It was already
Ugh.
being used to like spam email people. It was just, yeah, it was completely zombified within 2 hours of being connected to the internet. That's how bad the internet, and then again, didn't even go to LimeWire or any of these risky sites. Just being connected,
Ugh.
and it just was
Holy
had to be
mackerel.
trashed. Yeah, it's
Oof.
interesting. Again, so going to these some of these websites, it's just not worth going. It's not worth risking
Mhm.
it. So
I hear you.
yeah, it was crazy. It was a cool story. I read it on was it Gizmodo, I believe it was. I caught that story. But yeah, so yeah, I'm with you too. I don't want to yo ho it. I want to own a physical copy. Plus, it just looks nice next
It
to
really
all my
does.
other ones.
Yeah, because and then yeah, like I have a DVD of the original movie The Crow.
Same.
I do not have any DVDs of the others, in part because I just can't find them when I go to the. So I like going to use bookstores and use movie stores to see if there's any cool stuff I can find there on bargains.
Oh,
I just haven't come across the other Crow films
oh,
as yet, which which
uh,
again they weren't nearly as widely circulated or well known.
yeah.
But I was surprised that there wasn't some sort of like four movies in one DVD set thing over at the WalMarts, because I know they did that for Highlander
Yeah.
not long ago, and they've done that for a number of other TV series, like the Blade movies got that, if I recall correctly. But yeah, so I was hopeful, but
Mm. Yeah, I was gonna say with because that's how I got the New Line did a 3-pack of from number 2 through 4. They've got those. I've got that in a nice collection. I got that from my local Meyer grocery store a few years back. That's how I own the other ones. I had the VHS of Salvation way back when, the local video rental store. So kids, you'll probably never see those ever again. Uh, back in our day, we used to be able to go to a building and borrow movies.
That was back before we lost our teeth and before those whippersnappers were throwing rocks at tugboats.
We rode the Brontosaurus down to the local video store. Um,
Had to tell Fred Flintstone to get out of the way.
yeah. My feet still feel like leather from the driving those cars. But yeah, that's how I got my copy of Salvation. It was on sale. It was like $5.99.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, I picked up the VHS. I watched it. I watched it a ton. I was pretty obsessed with it then. Um, Now I'm not quite as much. I don't feel quite as strongly about it now as I
Hmm.
did back then. But I liked it. I mean, I still do like it. It's just it's not the one I go to anymore. I still prefer the first two
Hmm.
the
That's
most.
fair. Well, like I said, like we said before, the first two are
Superior.
intrinsically linked,
Yeah.
and they had the more they were the more well, they were the first attempts at the storytelling in
Mhm.
this medium for this world.
Yeah. And
And
great
yes,
cast. And
absolutely.
and great
Yeah.
cast. You had Iggy Pop,
Oh
Thomas
yeah.
Jane. So yeah, just really good sets, good movies. Um, let's see. So in the first Crow movie, let's see, the bad guys were pretty good, pretty true to the comics.
Very much
Um,
so. I felt. Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty true to the comics. I liked it. Um, Skank, I think Skank's probably my favorite one, just for being, just this mush mouth, but he's so honest. Like he's a scumbag, but he's really honest about everything. You
Yes.
know, I want you to look at me and tell me, are we having fun? You, what's your name? Skank. How you feel? Feel like a little worm on a big fucking hook.
Yep, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Your mama must be real proud. Everybody's laughing at him. Yeah, Skank's great, and then like him and T-Bird, the fire it up, and he's stumbling, he keeps going, just and T-Bird's just like, whatever, man, just keeps walking. He just everybody's clowning on him. What was it? They're swallowing the bullets, and he goes to drink his, and Tintin slams his hand down, and he swallows his bullet, and he's what was it, like pussies go last or something like that? Just
So
picking
that
on
was
him.
something along those lines. Yeah.
Or wusses go last, pussies go last, something like that. It was just, and they pull out, he's like pulls out his gun, and just a great little standoff, which leads to the great line to the which one of you Motor City motherfuckers. I love that line. Man, he's such a great actor. Oh man, what was his name? David Patrick Angel. It was such a good actor, man. Good stuff. And then Darla, they kind of down. Well, I was gonna say in the comics she's not really an important role. Not at all. So in the movie she gets, her character gets slightly elevated, but
Right.
it's good moments though. What was it? Mother is the name of God on the lips of children, I believe is the line. That's a good line too. I love that line.
Really is. And it was when she all of a sudden is like trying to make eggs
Mhm.
for Sarah when she wakes up. That the moment where Sarah looks legitimately, who is this person and why is my mom being body snatched?
Right.
That was a pretty powerful moment there, and that kind of despair Darla has when she realizes her daughter doesn't trust her, but then she goes, "Wait, I like my eggs like this." Then there's that kind of tentative steps towards healing their relationships starting up. That was very beautiful, actually. That
Yeah.
was a very bright moment in a very dark film.
Yeah. It's good, man. Yeah. It really was. And just she doesn't want to talk about what happened to her, and during that scene where she's just like, just something happened, something changed my life. It was such a good scene. And those eggs didn't look half bad. For
They
someone
really didn't.
who's seemed out of practice, who's been hopped up on drugs and alcohol, and shacking up with a loser, she wasn't burning the eggs at all. That was pretty good.
No, that
Good
was
job
like
cooking.
legitimately good cooking.
um, let's see. Who else there? Tintin was an interesting villain. I kind of liked how it was. Tintin in particular being the first one to go was an interesting choice too, because his method of killing was far more personal than the other ones. All the other guys, they were big on guns and or using a bomb to explode things, but Tintin was,
got close.
yeah, he was all about the knives, and sure, he would throw it, but throwing a knife is only, you only have so far
Right.
before it loses effectiveness, which of course, Eric, as he's fighting him, he slaps one away, dodges another, and then then he turns him into a pincushion as the fight goes on. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice, because it really forced Eric to get up and personal in his first steps towards that revenge. I'm not sure if other people noticed that or maybe have thought about that, but
Mhm.
that was a good choice. And of course, there, that's how he gets his coat and his iconic look. So there's another good reason for it. But
Mhm.
still, I thought that was a very interesting choice. And visually too, there's a bunch of those cues as well, like um, after the nightclub showdown where it's the big massacre and Top Dollar's, he's being driven um, by Grange. There's like just this brief moment where Grange is behind the wheel, his sister is leaning forward on the bench, and Top Dollar is the furthest one back, and it's kind of like it's a visual foreshadowing that it's like
Mhm.
you have two layers to get to the guy that needs to be dealt with
Right.
in order for Eric's mission to be completed. And it's one of those things that, after I've watched it several times and just rewatching it just before, us talking about it here on the stream, it, that was one of those things that it settled inside my mind that I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I get that. That media, what is it? What do they call it? Media literacy. I think is
Mhm.
what the term that they call it. Anyway, just letting that sink in.
Taking the dog out. I'll be back.
Okay, honey. Wife's just letting me know she's taking the dog out.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, I probably heard him shaking in the background.
Oh. And let's see. Well, that's bringing us to an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Anything else that you want to be talking about concerning the Crow or the cinematic adventure concerning the Crow?
Well, I know we'll probably end up going into the cinematic adventure separately when probably
That's
when
fair.
all four of us are
That's
gonna.
fair. Yeah,
And, oh, go ahead.
No, I said no. I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, I'm sure we will. I just really wanted to talk about the movie, and I know we've talked about all the movies and not just this one, but and I know this was originally gonna be our Halloween episode, but the four of us just finding the time to sit down to watch a movie is very hard.
It is.
When especially come just ahead of the holidays, and
I tell you, adulting.
adulting sucks.
Oh,
And most of us have two jobs.
at least.
Yeah, it's and with the
Yeah.
show, and I've got oh my god, I still have to get my Valiant comic book podcast back up and running. I've been working on that. It's just my job to get that back up and running is to stop being broke, so I can start buying the books again, and so that way I can actually do my comic book reviews and all of that. So that's kind of the hard part right now.
I hear you. A little hard to review something when you
Don't have it.
still you need to get the money to buy it.
Yeah, and then just trying to find the space, trying to find a recording space, recording time.
Mhm.
Just you and I linking up just to do this here is already bit of a challenge, and obviously
We had to do some scheduling gymnastics.
yeah, because we were going to record on Friday, but then this beautiful Chinese buffet happened, and then I just couldn't find the time to rewatch the film so I could refresh my memory. Despite having I've probably watched that movie over 10 times, but it's always good to watch things.
Oh, yeah.
And,
It's good to refresh. Keep it fresh in your mind.
and catch new things too.
Oh, yeah. And when the buffet puts you into a food coma, the Crow brings you back to life.
Oh my god, yes. Oh, man, they had some jalapeno spicy pork that was just
you're killing me.
die for. I loved it so much. That was
That
the one
really
dish I really liked it. And then they had some peanut butter sauce chicken, which was okay. It was unique. They had some wonderful noodles, chicken nuggets, mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese. They had all sorts of like seafood, stuff, which I can't eat most of that anyway,
Ooh.
due to my shellfish.
Oh yeah, that'll do it. Yeah. Yeah, we need to keep you away from crustaceans.
Yeah, yeah. I'm very giving. I'm allergic to being shellfish. My dad pun of the day. But yeah, man, I want to go back there so bad. But the crow. So in I guess in final thoughts, I am looking forward to making a review of the comic book and tying it all in for this channel. But for the crow
Sweet.
movie, the crow movie, thank you for coming on and
Of
reviewing it
course.
with me.
No, everyone on this podcast has become, in my opinion, a really good friend to myself and each other. And
Mhm.
as you guys are fun to gab with and talk about stuff we all enjoy together.
Yeah, I feel
Thanks
this.
for having
Yeah,
me.
yeah, and I feel the same too because it's nice when we especially when all four of us can get together and talk. It's it's nice to bond over things that we love and are
Mhm.
passionate about. You know, I know the three of you in particular are big Highlander fans, and so
Yes, we are. I really look forward to our Highlander films review.
oh, I know. Yeah, I do love Highlander. It's not what got me into this, but I do love Highlander, and I'm a proud owner of a Highlander movie replica trench coat that I bought for my cousin because I wanted a trench coat really bad, and
Sweet.
he was hard up. It's so cool. On the inside, it actually has a spot. So if you have the katana, you can actually put the katana inside of the trench coat.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too
Yep.
good. You got to bring this up again when we do the Highlander review, because
Yeah.
this is too cool not to get the whole group reaction on.
Oh, it's so cool. I love it. I got it bagged up underneath my bed. I gotta replace one of the buttons though. I don't remember what happened, but I think it was already kind of coming undone, but I think I got it caught on something and one of the buttons got torn off, so I got to replace
Oh,
it.
that's a shame.
But it's still a good coat. It's really warm. I gotta put it back on and see if it fits though.
Go for it,
I'm
man.
it's one of the things about as you get older, you tend to put on some weight
Yeah, I've
and
been there.
you
Yeah.
know. But I've also, I mean, but I'm a mix of fat and strong, and like in that.
Been
So I
there.
don't know. I don't know how things fit weird nowadays.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah. Don't get me started on trying to find pants that are the right size anymore.
oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I have a hard time with pants anyway because I've got some bone structure issues. So like it's weird. My one side of my pelvis is normal, and the other side is slightly caved in a little bit. So yeah, it's so pants don't fit me very well. They slide off my ass on the right side.
Oh
but they fit fine.
no.
So I have to. There's like the stretchy material belts. Those are the only kind of belts I can wear now. Because then I can adjust it, throughout the day, depending on how much I've walked and water I've gained or lost or food I've eaten or, moved around.
Adulting, man. Adulting.
Getting older, man, it sucks. I don't recommend it to anybody. Don't do it. Enjoy your teenager years and your childhood.
And when we get together for our Highlander review, we can discuss the alternative. just never aging, going on forever. That's a terrifying concept, actually.
Oh,
But more on that in a later review. We don't want to dig into that particular situation right now.
No,
but next time.
Next time.
Oh yeah.
Redemption HQ. So what is going to be our next episode? Are we're doing the
We still have we
half
have the smart heroes from the vault to cover, I think is the next thing we got on the docket. After that, anyone's guess. I mean, we have quite a number of these CA films to review. We've got including Highlander, which I'm eagerly awaiting for.
Yeah.
We got the wise heroes, both from the core and the vault. That's going to be at least 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Got the charming heroes from the core and the vault. That's going to be another 2 episodes. and at that point we'll be largely caught up with the classes, but there's a wealth of stuff to talk about still. I mean, there's origins to discuss. There's the various specialty rules and the CAs from the vault and such to discuss. And there's stuff that's in the works. I mean, the Intergalactic Heroes book for players and GMs is supposed to be coming out, I think, sometime next year. Because they've been doing a lot of play testing. We actually talked about some of the play testing that a few of us have done on that in previous episodes. So that's going to be coming out before long, and we're going to have a whole other batch of character classes and setting specific rules or guidelines to talk about. And by the time we finish all that, Everyday Arcana is going to be out at some point.
Right.
So we are not going to be at a loss for things to talk about.
Yeah, at least 3 new books are going to come out with new archetypes. Yeah, yeah, like you said, the Intergalactic one's going to have several. Military is going to have several.
Yep.
And Arcana is going to have several. And then I guess we'll see if they get any more ideas, maybe
IPs,
horror
right.
or
a lot of it depends on if Everyday Heroes company Evil Geniuses were able to get some new IPs or have some new IPs in mind.
Yeah.
And I know that like Intergalactic and Arcana both are going to have 3 new classes for each of the 6 archetypes. So we're talking 18 new classes per book for those 2. I don't know about what the class count for the archetypes that is in Military Heroes. The Armory book is the one that's currently being fixed up and finished up in preparation. I think Armory is supposed to come. I think it's Armory first, and then Intergalactic Heroes, then Arcana, and then Military Heroes is still in the midst of some development.
Yeah, because they were still looking for people who with military experience to kind of help guide the book.
Right.
So,
absolutely. But yeah, we are not going to be lacking for things to talk about in future episodes.
Oh my God.
And that doesn't even count trying to do some one shots or trying to do some interviews or talking about the various cons and such everyone goes to.
Right. Which we're still sitting on Gen Con footage, right?
Yes, I keep forgetting to send that to you. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Like you said, multiple jobs. My brain gets a little scattered sometimes.
No, you're right. You did you get it completed, or is it still kind of all in pieces and needs to get put together?
I need to finish the putting together part.
Okay. We just got to put the Legos together. No problem.
Yeah, just got to get the Legos together.
No problem. I know, because we're gonna soon have what is this next one? PAX? Is that the next one?
PAX Unplugged. Yeah, a couple of us are going to be going there on. In fact, I believe our friends Harlan and Spectral are going to be over there for most of the convention. I myself, due to the multiple job situation, am only going to be able to attend one of the days. But on the day when the 3 of us are there, we're going to try to get together and do a little everyday heroing.
Yeah, and because of my multi jobs, I'm completely incapable of it.
You will be very much missed. Very much missed.
I am looking forward to hopefully meeting everybody over at Origins.
That would be a lot of fun.
And hopefully next year's Gen Con, I'm gonna make sure I save all my pennies for. So I'm looking forward to that. At least those 2 cons. So, yeah, we got those going on. Oh my God. And not to mention just all the subdivisions of the media. Highlander alone, you've got the TV series and the animated series to talk about.
And there was the spin-off TV series Highlander the Raven that only lasted like a season and a half.
Yeah.
Everybody forgets that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
5 films if we count Highlander the Gathering.
Mm-hmm.
And there was talk not long ago about a Henry Cavill Highlander movie situation. So we'll see how that goes. Especially given how the more recent Crow film got a lot of pushback. We'll see what happens. But we are definitely going to have a full podcast, my friend.
Yeah, we're gonna, we're gonna go from an Everyday Heroes to just a Highlander podcast eventually. That's where we're gonna wind up.
It is a story that takes forever.
Oh my god! And Who Wants to Live Forever?
Oh, that song! I love that song.
Yeah, me
All
too.
righty, my friend. But
All right.
shall we wish everybody at home a fantastic day and many happy everyday hero gaming experiences in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And we're looking forward to making more episodes and maybe have a Thanksgiving holiday Highlander special, hopefully, possibly. And um, yeah, just looking forward to it. I've seen we had a couple viewers pop in and out as we were recording this live stream here, which hopefully we'll get some people on the back end on it, and which always happens, once these videos are up and posted. So I'm looking forward to I'm looking forward to more discussions, particularly the wise heroes. I'm looking forward to that and talking about the soothsayer for the smart heroes. I stepped away. We recorded on Halloween just so for quick behind the scenes thing. So you guys recorded on Halloween night for the smart heroes, which is why I couldn't go because I was trick or treating. But I also I felt like a fish out of water when we talk about smart hero stuff because I'm not smart. So
I disagree, my friend. But no,
I'm perceptive.
I get it.
I'm perceptive, just not intelligent. There's a difference.
Oh yeah, I am very excited for the Wise Heroes myself. That was my first ever Everyday Heroes character was a Wise Hero, so I'm definitely keen on diving into that.
Same,
but
I'm looking forward to it.
Oh yeah. All righty. I think that's got us.
Yeah, I think we're okay to wrap it up. So thank you everybody for watching this episode. Hopefully you were entertained by our sort of review. It's more like a discussion of the Crow and the general property and the comics and the CA, and looking forward to actually talking and getting into the CA. And when we find the time to run adventures, I would love to do that. I'd love to run through the what was it? The name of the Crow adventure that they came out with. Something Folly.
Yeah. There was a separate from the CA CA because the CA's adventure is called I've actually got it in my hand. The CA's adventure is referred to as Prayers of the Past.
Right.
And it's got some really beautiful music descriptions and section names in reference to Eric Draven's own musicianship, as well as the very intense music of the original soundtrack.
Mm-hmm.
This one is... I know I bought it.
I have it on my tablet, but my tablet's on the other side of my house.
Yeah, so. I've got a similar situation. But yeah, it's
no.
Yeah, but the Folly adventure.
Yeah, something's Folly.
Foresight's Folly.
Foresight's Folly. There we go.
I would love to play that one. Really want to play that one. I'm not going to lie.
Same.
And I honestly would love it if there were. I know that there was a really good live play series that was put out. In fact, if we go to the Discord channel, it's probably the links to there are probably still up. But it was an Everyday Heroes thing that was sort of a blend of The Crow, Assassin's Creed, and Highlander, where you had immortal, reborn, and human origin characters across several generations.
Ooh, cool.
It was a very good story, a very good live play. Enjoyed it immensely.
Awesome. I need to check that out. I need to watch more live plays in general.
Oh, they were a lot of fun. Of fun.
My wife got hooked on them. So, yeah. What was his name? Chuckles the Clown.
Oh God.
That's what my wife loves watching. I'll sometimes just wake up to her giggling that what was it? I'm a committer of various war crimes.
Oh golly Moses. Oh boy. Oh. On that note, I got to get to some household chores.
Yeah, same.
Yeah,
same.
But again, thank you so much for letting me share some time with you as we gabbed about this awesome franchise. And have a wonderful rest of your week.
You too.
Till
I'll
next
see you.
time.
Yep. See you on the next time. Bye, Rob.
Bye-bye.
All right. There's the stream and ending the stream.